Good morning, all of those tuning into North Node Astrology here. One last, I guess, short video here on the Virgo rising stuff. And this one's another interesting one. I came across this chart because this is a poet, Rainer Maria Rilke, is basically a German poet from the turn of the century here. I was born in 1875. And what obviously what jumped out at me is the Virgo rising again, right? Um, I've read just a few things from a friend that has shared some things with me. It's powerful stuff for her, and it the things that she sent me was I thought was very intense. And of course, he was born just before the turn of the century, was 25, when it turned 1900, and so here he is with the Virgo rising, obviously, and his 12th house is Leo yet again, but it also contains that Uranus there, right? So there's a connection to the collective, right? With that Uranus, there's also that radical change, that radical subconscious change that he had in himself to align possibly with, the collective, or to a want to be radically himself, to be that Sagittarius in the fourth house, right? Which is very Cancerian, right? It's very stable. It knows where to comfort itself. And so he wrote, right? He was skilled in his second house, skilled at relationships, okay? And with a Venus in Sagittarius, it may have taken some time. It may have taken him some time to work into that, right? The collection of poetry or the snippets that I was sent was published in 1902. So he was in his 30s, right? Well, in his 20s, born in 1875. And with that third house in Scorpio, as any, Virgo is, even in a Virgo sun, doing a whole sign, right? There's lots of, scorpionic luck here, right? There's also, and with that Mercury in Scorpio, it's super intense, it's powerful, it's passionate. Mars in Aquarius, it is reaching the collective, right? And it's also transforming values. And then that Taurus is reaching right back to that Venus and Sag, right? So it's very intense, very powerful, always improving, right? That sixth house Mars, right, in Aquarius, it might be strange, but those that it's not strange for line right up, right? It pulls certain people in. And possibly the people that it's pulling in are people that are older, or people that are looking for that wisdom, right? People are looking for that improvement, that Saturn in Aquarius. And again, Saturn's in Aquarius right now. So it's, again, interesting that this is coming up. So with that 12th house, that's beginning in Leo, and that Sag sun, he's programming people again to explore, right? To explore themselves, to explore the emotions of home, to explore and to expand themselves in that. And don't be afraid to be a radical, right? Don't be afraid, in that retrograde, Uranus there is very focused on certain things, right? He is, and with a Saturn opposition here, he's pulling in from his experiences with with what he created, right? Because we've got Saturn here ruling the fifth and the sixth house, and Saturn's in the sixth here. So it's you can see the strength that he's drawing from. And again, with Gemini in the 10th house, he was known for his speech and for his intuition, right? His intuitive speech, right? That Mercury is ruling that 10th house, as well, obviously, as his first, right? And again, it goes back to that Pluto in Taurus and that Mars in Aquarius. So It was strange, but it was still very grounded, right? And very philosophical. And as he went into those philosophies, it transformed him, right? So we've got, that Jupiter Pluto opposition, which strangely enough right now I have, like, it's not in my chart, but my Pluto in my ninth house is in opposition to Jupiter that's in Aries right now, so it's a little bit spin, but he had that natally, right? So there was a lot of, he probably hid a lot of what he thought, but he knew when he didn't hide it, it would transform his values. It would transform his philosophies so that at least he could value it, right? He had to transform his own philosophy so that he could value himself, right? And, anybody that's read his poetry can see that really bleeding through. And there was obviously, anybody, the best way I've heard any kind of art be described is it's another way of screaming, right? If you can't get it out, you have to create. And all of us are pushed to create, right? Also funny here that Chiron is back in Aries, right? And, so here we are, another Chiron in Aries. And for him, that was very peak experiences, right? So whether it was playing or fighting or, his childhood, quite possibly, was a very peak experience for him. And there was a wounding there, but it was about trust, right? Eighth house. And, it kind of goes back to, that, so his Mercury is being influenced by the divinity of value, right? He's being spoken to through that. And he may have had some peak experiences when he was, imbibing of some sort. I don't know much about the man, but those could have been, experiences. Or when he was younger, when anytime things got vague, he knew that he needed to not be there or speak in a different way to clear it up, right? His poetry it's very targeted, but it's also, there is a vagueness to it, but there's a power there, right? And again, Mars, we're going back to that, Aries, we're going back to that Mars that's in that Aquarius, that it is strange, but it's very powerful and it's very creative. It's, it's piercing, right? Which is also, Mars does that, eighth house does that, and Aries definitely does that because it's the first sign of the zodiac, right? This is where he rebirths himself in his youth. And he was a young man when he started writing these things. So I just, hopefully you guys see how the Virgo rising stuff works. I'm probably gonna move on to Leo rising next, I think. Not necessarily purposely working backwards, but it might work out pretty well. So thank you for listening again, and love you guys.